Hello and welcome to the Cedar Mill and Bethany Library Crafternoon for teens. Um, Today we are going to be making reusable fabric gift wrap, which is called Furoshiki in Japan. Here's an example of one I made before. It's just a piece of pillowcase that I cut up and painted a design on. So today I'm going to show you how to cut a t-shirt to make your own furoshiki, but any spare piece of fabric you have at home works. And the bigger the fabric is, the bigger item it will wrap. So on this t-shirt, let me show you if I can get it all on camera. I have just drawn a line using a ruler and a Sharpie from armpit to armpit of this t-shirt. And I'm going to use that as my guide to cut off the top of the t-shirt. And I've laid down a trash bag underneath because after we cut our fabric, we will be painting it. And I learned last night that the paint will soak through your fabric onto your table. So it's always good to have your work surface prepped. Do this on camera. And the cutting bit is kind of tricky. You're cutting through 2 layers of fabric. If you want, you can always open up the t-shirt and only cut around one. It'll just take a little longer. And it can come out kind of jaggedy and saw-edged if you try to rush it. So slow is always best. And I'm not keeping to my line very well either. But I know this does not make for a riveting video, so I'm trying to rush. Almost done. Okay, so we have the top of the t-shirt, nice little crop top, and the tube body of the t-shirt is what we're gonna keep working with. So next, I'm just going to trim off the hem on the bottom so that all of our fabric is of the same texture. There's no seams or hems or sleeves. And you'll find it's probably easier if you can kind of hold both pieces in one hand and pull as you cut. That helps the fabric stay taut and helps you keep a neater line. The only trick is doing that while keeping your line parallel to the seam. All right, so once your hem on the bottom is cut off, you are just left with this tube of fabric. I'm going to just take one of the side seams. This is a t-shirt that doesn't have seams on the side, so this is just continuous fabric, but I'm just going to cut up the side because we want to work with just a flat square of fabric. And so once I'm done working on the square of fabric I'm making, I'll actually have the other side of the t-shirt to work on too. So one t-shirt will actually make 2 wraps. All right, so you'll see I've got 2 pieces of fabric now. I'm gonna get rid of this other one. And then Furoshiki works best, since you are going to be using this to wrap packages, if it is a square shape. So there's a couple ways you can get a square. You can measure both sides and then trim the longer side to match the shorter side. Or if you're a little lazy like me and want a shortcut, You can get a square the same way you would with an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. Just fold one corner up, and you can see my line here. And I'm going to use that as my guide to trim off the excess fabric and make a square. On camera. Okay. And again, I'm rushing through this cutting part, so my edges are pretty ragged. If you go slowly and take your time, yours will look much better. And you can always go back and trim your edges if they don't turn out quite how you want them. And if you are a sewing whiz and want to hem this once you're done, that would look great. You are more than welcome to do that. I am not great at sewing, so I'm just going to leave my edges as they are. All right, so we've got this nice little square. And from here, you can really decorate however you want. So the example I made previously, I took a cookie cutter. This is actually my favorite method. It's kind of cool. And I took the paint I was using and the brush included in your kit. Let's pick up this dark blue. So I'm working on my white surface. And I just carefully painted around the edge of the cookie cutter. If you're using a cookie cutter that technically belongs to your parents, please ask before doing this. We're using acrylic paint, so this will wash off pretty easy as long as it's still wet, but once it dries, it does get trickier. So ask permission first and make sure to clean it as soon as you're done. So I just get a light layer of paint, just enough to be a little bit thick on all the edges, like that. And then I just place it down on the fabric and lift. And it's not perfect. It doesn't always get an exactly even shape, but it's got kind of a nice, I don't know, handmade quality to it. So that's one option that you can do to decorate your material. Another option is, of course, freehanding. So another example I made yesterday, I tried to freehand little trees on this fabric. They didn't quite turn out the way I wanted. The fabric absorbed a lot of the paint and kind of made them lighter than I had intended. So my other advice would be to use the pieces that you trim off, like this kind of crop top of t-shirt that we had left over, use that to practice your designs. Fabric and using acrylic paint with a paintbrush is never going to be exactly how you expect it. So definitely always practice beforehand. And then you can do lots of other things too. If you have sponges at home, you can cut those into shapes. Again, ask your parents first and use them as stamps. Or you can also cut simple shapes out of pieces of paper and use those as stencils. My last easy to paint design idea I wanted to show you was making pencil eraser polka dots. So you just take a pencil eraser, dip it lightly in your paint, just enough to coat the bottom, not too much drippy, and then just place it wherever you want on your t-shirt and reapply paint as necessary. But that way you get a nice, cute, regular shape. And you can do this with any household object that can get paint on it. If you want bigger circles, you could even use like the bottom of a glass. If you want like really big circles, again, ask your parents first. But yeah, this is a really easy craft you can do with any leftover pillowcase, t-shirt, bed sheet that is okay to cut up and paint. And they're really easy to decorate, and then you're wasting less when you wrap presents instead of using paper, you can use this. Make sure to let it dry, and yeah, happy wrapping.